Hopefully press the power button. Your light turns on.
Okay. I call this meeting to order for the Kansas State Student Senate. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll go ahead and start our meeting. Our first item on the agenda is roll call.
Thanks. All right, Adams. Here. Akers. Here. Alberts. Anders. Arnaldi. Bergston. Here. Bowler. Here. Cafera. Dinez. Here. DeMoranville. Here. Elliott. Here. Flores. Here. Kohler. Garcia. Here. Garrity. Here. Grandy. Hendrickson. Here. Hyen. Here. Hughes. Here. Jackson. Jewell. Here. Kallenberger. Here. Kelly. Here. Kidd. Here. Klein. Here. Maples. Here. Markle. Here. Martin. Here. McDermott. Here. McIntyre. Here. Mertens. Here. Meyer. Here. Nichols. Here. Nedry. Here. Nordstrom. Here. Ogren. Here. Orth. Penny. Here. Papoon. Pitts. Here. Pruitt. Here. Frostenpour. Here. Swanson. Tedrow. Here. Thomas. Tuttle. Here. Valdez. Here. Works. Here. Zwick. Here. Hart. Here. Haynes. Bothwell. Here. Carpenter. Cruz. Here. Dahl. Gammon. Here. Grover. Here. Hornung. Here. Horton. Here. Hodgkinson. Here. Houghton. Jabin. Here. Karamali.
Here.
Karanja. Kellerman.
Here.
King.
Here.
McAdam. McCandless.
Here.
Meinhardt. Peckert. Here. Putnam.
Here.
Roth.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Savarino. Shao. Chumlin.
Here.
Wheeler. Whitmer.
Here.
Witzke. Syke.
Here.
All right, we'll proceed on. And our next item on the agenda is open period, and our first speakers, K-State Athletics.
Hi, I'm actually going to start.
It's Sarah Needry.
So if you'll go to the last 2 pages of your agenda, because I know you use your computers only for the agenda. Yeah. Okay, so the second to last piece of legislation, let me explain my email this morning. So a group of SGA leadership, Jack Ayers, Olivia Ballman, Jonathan Pushin, Nick Edwards, and I have been meeting with athletics to try to find a way to lessen the burden of the privilege fee increase that's going to happen this year because of the large enrollment decline. And so this was one of our proposals to athletics. We've had a great working relationship, and we feel like we have come up with a solution that's beneficial for both athletics and students. So we asked them to be reviewed by the privilege fee a year early. And so this is kind of the agreement that we've worked up. It's not being introduced tonight because it has not been passed by the privilege fee committee, but because of the Big 12 tournament, they could only be here tonight. So we're gonna have time for questions for them. But if you look at this, if you go down to the being enacted that sections, everything that is in italicized, everything that's sideways, are things that may have changed a little bit from years past. So sections in the football stadium, sections in basketball, adding a section about, our KU games since our attendance is pretty high there. Talk about when this will terminate because it's not a privilege fee funding agreement anymore. So we had to kind of come up with a new way to decide how we were gonna keep the conversation going with athletics and keep this great working relationship. And so I'm gonna let them come up here, talk about their kind of side, and then answer any questions that you guys have because they won't be able to be here next week when it's introduced. Awesome.
Okay, I'm Joni Smoller. I'm the Associate Athletic Director for Fan Experience and Sales, and I've got Brett Aiken here, our Director of Fan Experience, and really just here for questions. Like she said, we've been working on this for several weeks now, and we are really appreciative of the working relationship between athletics and SGA. It goes back several years. So our plan is to reduce the privilege fee agreement, the $200,000 that was going to be coming to athletics next year, and remove that so that that money can go towards other programs that you all fund. So questions on anything, and again, appreciate you working with our schedules. Next week we're in Kansas City, and then hopefully the next week we're in the NCAA tournament. And then next week is spring break, and then the following week we go on sale with student passes. So we want to make sure we're giving the right information to students as we start marketing those passes. So questions?
Are there any questions? Director Kuchera?
To my understanding, this will stop the $200,000 going to athletics next year, and it will just shrink the tickets available to students, the student sections, but most of that's been because of drop in student attendance. Is that correct?
Yeah, so like if you look at football this past season, section 28, which is that section right next to where the band platform is, was pretty empty, and we were able to sell some general admission tickets in there, some north end zone overflow. So this would be, we're selling those tickets on a single game basis. We're also utilizing it for like when the band has their all-star band group come in, that group will sit there. So to be able to utilize that GA section to help fill it between where the students like to sit, 50-yard line, and then connect with the band.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can you explain a little bit how our attendance has been like through the past years, and if with these sections taken out, how detrimental will that actually be to students based on how we've been attending? Does that make sense?
Yeah, student attendance on average is down in both football and basketball over the past decade, even just looking at numbers, and we can send these out to you. The hope is that, and looking at the numbers and deciding which sections is, it doesn't really affect student attendance. So like you mentioned, the KU game, so our plan for basketball is sections 24 and 25. We would be able to sell to the general public on a game-by-game basis, but we wouldn't sell those for the KU game because you all come out to that game in huge numbers, and we want you to be able to cheer on the Wildcats against the rivals. So it shouldn't affect attendance. Our hope is to not turn students away, but it is Brett and I's task. You guys are so important to football and men's basketball and just the environment for other fans at games. So we're not going to sit back and go, well, students don't come, that's fine. We're just going to sell their tickets anyway, so that's fine. We want you there. We're going to market to you. We're going to come up with giveaways. We're going to come up with pregame ideas to get students there. So it's not our plan to sit back and let attendance keep decreasing. That's not what we want. We want you guys to come to games because you're the ones that make it fun. If that answers the question.
Senator Tuttle?
Hi, from your point of view, how would this change the relationship between SJ and athletics besides the money aspect?
I don't think it will change the relationship. I think having this agreement, even though there's no money being given towards athletics, the fact that there's still a written agreement and that we're going to continue to consult student leaders on ticket prices, promotional things, the lineup process for men's basketball, all those sorts of things. We want to continue that relationship, even though there's not a financial relationship, I guess, like transactional, but we want to get your feedback and get your approval on all the things we're doing to market to students and offer tickets and attendance. And we do have, so we've written into the agreement that we would get together every 3 years, or like if there's a change in athletic director and he wants to look at different things, but I don't see that being an issue. We'll get together every year. And really monthly. Jack knows and Nick knows.
Any other questions? Chair Chamberlain.
Yeah, will this result in a ticket price increase for students?
No, we don't want to raise prices at all. We don't want to add a financial burden to you guys. You're already paying enough with all the other things that cost for college. So we do not want to raise ticket prices.
Senator Jensen, Penny?
Yeah, on a line in the new agreement, it says SGA will work collaboratively with KSA to develop funding plans from SGA reserves for future capital improvements that aim to improve student experience. What does that mean with that, or what like student experience? Is that like capital improvement like all in like stadiums and stuff?
Yeah, possibly. So I don't know how much you know of the past relationship, but we worked with SGA to help fund the volleyball seats that we upgraded a few years ago, the tennis facility at the rec. That was a partnership between athletics and students. So those sorts of things. But to that point about attendance, we know that it takes more than just a basketball game to get you guys to come to a basketball game. So we've talked with Jack and the other leadership of exploring what those things are, and if there's a capital expense to, I don't want to speculate because I don't want to guess, but if there's some sort of cost associated that would be an improved experience for you guys, a pregame concert, for example, we would look to partner with you guys on that sort of thing.
Time for questions has expired. Is there a motion to extend time for questions?
Yeah, I move to extend time by 5 minutes.
It's been moved and seconded to extend time by questions by 5 minutes. Is there any objections? Seeing none, there's 5 minutes. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, our next guest for open period is Aiden Rodriguez, Associate Vice President for Student Life of Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs.
Well, hello. Thrilled to be here. This is my first time to formally meet many of you. Of course, I've visited with many of y'all already. Some of y'all have heard a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. But one of the things that you may not be familiar with my position is that we have previously had an associate provost position for the Office of Diversity. And so one of the things that happened in many transitions in the areas of diversity, multicultural student affairs, was my position moving over to the Division of Student Life. And so I can actually be found right next to Dr. Bosco in 122 Anderson. And then we've recently brought in our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Well, actually, he'll be beginning next week, will be his official start date. So I just want to let you know of that. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about some of our efforts thus far and some of the visions we have moving forward. Wanted to, since some of y'all have not met me, and since we are a Strengths Quest University, just want to let you know, I'm an arranger, a strategic person, futuristic, positivity, and woo. And so a lot of these are going to really play into much of the work that we're doing. In my past, I've had the great fortune of graduating with an architecture degree, being a college coach. So a lot of that leads towards my leadership style and a lot of my working style in engaging our students. So I just wanted to share that with you real quick. Much of our efforts thus far has been really getting to know students, getting to know K-State. I have some familiarity with K-State as I've been working on my doctorate here for a little bit of time. I'm not brand new to Kansas, as I was here before in a Dean of Students role at Butler Community College before moving back to Texas for nearly 10 years and then coming back to Kansas. And so as I've been, exploring and trying to become as familiar as I can with everything on campus, I've had the opportunity to visit with many of our different student groups. Obviously, our international students, our multicultural student organizations, as well as our LGBTQ students, but also our student athletes. Today, I was up in the Veterans Center visiting with Dominic and some of our students there. Talking about how we can engage and how they're a part of our multicultural and inclusion efforts. And so visited with a lot of folks at our Student Access Center, college ambassador leaders, RAs, student staff, of course, many of our faculty and staff, as I've been learning about all of the great programs in leadership studies, in College of Engineering, business, all across the university. Of course, our college deans and departments. And so most recently been rounding that out by coming back and visiting with many of our student groups. Had the great opportunity to visit with SGA last week a couple times. Of course, this week with our multicultural student organizations, many of those, some of our executive groups, and of course wanted to come here and visit with you all. Some of those early perceptions and reactions on that listening tour have been really this discussion about what multicultural means as it relates to intercultural mindset. And one of the things is, as we talk about diversity and multicultural student affairs, one of the things is we need to be sure that we're the most inclusive office space on campus. And so a lot of that is really centering around intercultural mindset and discussion. And so we do a very good job of identifying our own identities. But what are we doing to make sure that there's a great deal of interaction amongst our various identities, right? It's one thing to be perhaps a black male, but what if I'm a gay black male, right? Or if I'm a female student in STEM, but what if I'm a veteran student in STEM, right? What does that mean? And how are we engaging, and how are our experiences on campus? So a couple of discussions that have come up, some most immediate perceptions and discussions was really centered around some of the things in which the Diversity and Multicultural Student Office sponsors and hosts. And one of the things we do is we host our Multicultural Student Organization Leadership Council, which is made up of specifically and primarily our identity groups related to race and ethnicity. It's necessary for them to have that leadership council. But one of the other things that's been coming up from our many groups is what can we do to create a leadership council through the Diversity Multicultural Student Affairs Office that represents not just multicultural student affairs, but international students, our LGBT leaders, students from our Student Access Center, some of our other academic programs that connect with marginalization, those types of things, so we can have a lot of discussion about intersectionality and what it means to walk this campus and to be welcomed and to be accepted. And so we want to have a platform and an opportunity for students to engage in that way. And so we're introducing an intercultural leadership council to that as well. Of course, representatives from SGA as well being a part of that. A few things in regards to the perceptions that we've been learning, and of course that I've been hearing about, really falling into 5 categories, and that's really one of which is student advocacy. How we can represent. That was much of our conversation just earlier with our student veterans, right? How are we advocating for them on campus and across the university? How are we representing other student populations that may not have been central to our discussions as it relates to multicultural student affairs? Student access and success. A lot of our discussions have been about need-based scholarships. We have a strong model for merit-based scholarships, but what can we do to provide for students in rural parts of Kansas that may not have the means to afford a K-State education? And so what can we do to explore those opportunities? Of course, civility, cultural competency. There was much discussion on this throughout the fall, right? And so what can we do to ensure that we have cultural competency education and training opportunities, whether that be a course, whether that be non-course based options? Right, one of the things that we're doing most immediately is working with Youth Student Services to develop a 2-hour component of orientation in which we can introduce students coming to the university to some of our community principles, but things that we value as it relates to diversity inclusion efforts. Right, as a part of Wildcat Warm Up, of course, through an entire immersion experience, including convocation, Wildcat Dialogues, Cats for Inclusion programs such as that. So there's different ways in which we can do that. Of course, discussion on Multicultural Student Center. That's a key topic for us. We've got a lot of excitement and momentum there, and so we're working on that. I'll speak to that a little bit more here in just a moment. And of course, the Office of Diversity, and as we become the Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs Office in the Division of Student Life. What does that look like? Well, one of the things we want to make sure that we're doing is we're incredibly student-centered and have student engagement in this process. So I encourage you, if you will, Adrian R. at kstate.edu. Let me know if any of these student advisory councils or groups interest you. We want to make sure that we have input from all of our student leaders across the university as we talk about these issues. We're going to be hosting regular meetings, and we're sending this out to all students who are interested. But we'll be having Friday meetings initially. We're doing some doodle polls, make sure we identify the best times for students, but to be able to have these discussions on these various topics. One of the things I want to just point out, now this is a busy slide, I don't expect you to really digest all of this, but one of the things in our Office of Diversity Multicultural Student Affairs is we're really examining where students are engaged through our office. It's checking out a little bit here. There you go. All right, excuse me for that. Can you hear me? Oh, except I changed the slide. All right, thank you. So one of the things, as I was saying, we're examining, many ways in which we engage with students through our programs and services. And I'll just tell you, a lot of our efforts are very front-loaded. Through programs such as Project Impact. A lot of those programs are really to help to recruit many of our multicultural students to the university, increase a college-going culture, college readiness, and do a lot of those efforts. But a lot of that's on the very front end. Not much is a part of, or not much of what we do is engaged in this, the civility and cultural competency piece.
Time for the speaker is expired. Is there a motion to extend? Senator Kelly.
Maybe we extend the speaker's time by 10 minutes. Okay.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by 10 minutes. Any objections? Seeing none, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're engaging students as they're moving through the college experience and doing as much as we can to provide intercultural learning, intercultural education and training as a part of that as well as supporting our students as they experience and navigate K-State. And so you'll see that through this continuum here. And so in doing so, right now, a lot of our programs are centered at the very early part of the experience. We want to really create a three-tier program support to undergird that entire experience. Which would be a lot of the services and programs that we already do through great corporate giving to support the recruitment of many of our students, but also to provide intercultural learning, and then a diversity of multicultural student life experiences to support our engagement efforts. And so in doing so, I'm presenting to you an org chart reorganization that we're looking at. I talked about those three pillars through our office. And so right now, if you look at the far left of your screen as you face it, that's pretty much how we're structured. Some of y'all may know Myrta Chavez. She's the current director. We have a program coordinator, a lot of students, college work study. That's what that stands for. That's the designation we use in Texas. Apparently, we don't use it as much here because everyone keeps saying, what does that mean? That's what I meant by that. Peer mentors. But really that middle tier is the one in which we're really focused on intercultural learning. All right, how are we going to bring intercultural education and training, an intercultural immersion experience, create unity ambassadors, provide intercultural leadership development opportunities, those types of programs. The far right is what can we do to further support multicultural student organizations and really our intercultural efforts as an entire university with KS Unite Next efforts, much of what we're doing through retention efforts, new programs, and those types of things. And so we really believe by doing this is no new money. This was taking a look at a lot of our existing dollars, our great corporate partners who have provided to us, reallocating and looking at those opportunities with the foundation and what we already have to reallocate and repurpose some of those dollars to provide us with a director of intercultural learning. That's what director of IL stands for, and a director of diversity, multicultural student life. So this is a new structure that we're looking to roll out here real soon to provide us a great deal of support in our office for our entire university community. Lastly, the Multicultural Student Center, a lot of work being done on this right now. Of course, I'm new to the university, so I'm been moving as quickly as I can to get oriented to all of our processes, a lot of the work that has been done. Spent a half day the other day at the foundation, getting caught up on everything that's been done, where we are exactly. It met with our college architects last Friday. And been receiving presentations and information about much of the great work that had been done and where we are now. And so really looking to advance those efforts. Met with a multicultural student organization group yesterday on much of those planning to get as much feedback as we could from that group. And that's one of our advisory groups. So if you wish to be a part of that moving forward, I'd encourage you to reach out to me so I can incorporate you in those discussions so we can make sure that we're moving forward with a great deal of transparency and discussion and looking to advance that effort. And thank you for the extra time. Appreciate it. Any questions? Yeah.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Caucus Leader Valdez.
Yeah, so in the topic of cultural competency courses, I was trying to research what benefits they bring and like any actual research reports or studies done on the effects of cultural competency on organizations and businesses. And I could come up with very little like results on any like scientific or
Caucus Valdez, is there going to be a question?
yeah, I was gonna say, what like tangible research results have there been on the topic of cultural competency courses?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a few things, and we can certainly get those out to our campus community, because that's going to be centric to much of our work, is being able to communicate exactly the benefit of our of this work. And so we'll be able to provide you with some research on that. Additionally, anecdotally, just from my time here already and engaging our alumni and our corporate sponsors, I was with One Oak just last week, and much of what they're talking about is that they're not just looking for career-ready students, but they're looking for culturally competent career-ready students that can get out into the world and navigate a very diverse community. And so those are many of the skill sets that they're looking for, and so they're looking to us, and that's why they're investing a great deal. And so that's why I was saying in our diversity multicultural student affairs effort, right now the vast majority of that funding are from Koch Industries, from Cargill, from Hormel, from John Deere, from many of these agencies, including Conoco, Phillips 66, that are investing into our diversity multicultural student affairs efforts because they want to see cultural competency in our graduates. And so I can tell you right now, just speaking to those those corporate entities whom many of us want to be a part of when we complete our work as a part of engineering and business and ag. Those are the entities that are informing us and communicating to us that they want culturally competent graduates. And so we're really trying to be responsive to those corporate entities. Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Flores.
So first of all, thank you for coming. As an advocate of veterans here on campus, I think it's awesome that you're reaching out to student veterans, you're meeting with them to try to make them feel included. So I guess my question is, and maybe you said it and I didn't quite catch it, will they be represented in the intercultural student council?
Absolutely. And so what we're talking about are any groups, and one thing that specifically in our conversation today was they certainly see themselves, right, as a part of the fabric of our university. And a student population that sometimes, is minimized. And so the entire intent of the Intercultural Leadership Council is to ensure that diverse viewpoints, individuals that experience, or that need to be valued and should be valued, are a part of the conversation. And so they absolutely are a part. And as we talk about multicultural student affairs at K-State University, we need to expand that definition and make sure it is about inclusion and that it's not specifically about strictly one group or another and so forth. But we need to be very inclusive in our efforts, and that certainly includes our student veterans. And we're very grateful to our veterans.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Any questions, Senator Hine?
What would you say the biggest challenges that the Multicultural Student Center is facing right now, and what is the university doing?
Yeah, I think probably one of the greatest challenges is transition. I'm new to this role. We've had transition throughout the history or the lifespan of the discussions on a multicultural student center. Anytime you have transition, you have some lag time. And so I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges that we need to overcome, is the fact that naturally, when you have some lag time, there's frustration, certain things set in, or, is this happening? Is this not? And that type of thing. So I'm trying to bring to it a great deal of constructive energy, some positivity, because I really believe this can be done. It takes a great deal of coalition building. It's collective impact. It's us really working with entities that can help us to do that. But that's what it's really about. But I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges to overcome, is those transitions. It's inevitable. It happens in any working organization, but it does create some challenges along the way.
Any other questions? Senator Kelly.
Thanks. So you spoke a little bit to the Multicultural Student Center. I know a lot of students, including myself, over the past year and a half, have heard similar conversations and comments about the center, right? Transitions, like you were talking about.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, is there a timeline? And if there is, what is that?
Okay, excellent. So we're in the midst of developing this timeline from this point. Now, naturally, I'm new to the program, right? So I'm coming in and I'm I have an architectural background. Just my own nature is built on timelines. I believe in having a construction schedule, a project timeline. That's one of the things that I'm working with the foundation on right now. Much of our conversation with the architects was exactly doing that. Let's talk about so we have a little bit of work on concept and some things. A lot of that great work that was done, bringing that forward, putting it forth, having some conversations just for us to get on the same page, move forward. But exactly at what point, right? And because we have at the end of this term, we want to have that program description finalized, working with them, and then building out a construction timeline from that point forward. So it's a little early for me to be able to tell you exactly specifically what that timeline is. But based on the exact location, space, everything that goes in, so we're moments away from me being at a place in which we can start to build that out. And so I'm hoping I'm invited back to give some updates as we continue in this work. I'm excited about the work. And I'm excited about the partnerships that and the individuals whom I've been able to work with the foundation, with our administration, and of course all of our student engagement. But I know we're eager to get this thing built, so we're gonna keep working hard to get it done. Thank you.
Time for the speakers. Time for questions is expired. Is there a motion to extend time for questions? Senator Kelly.
I move we extend time for questions by 5 minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and second to extend time questions by 5 minutes. Anton Rodriguez.
Hi, thank you for coming and speaking to us. How do you plan on funding this?
I'm sorry.
The student center, how do you anticipate on funding it?
Oh, anticipate funding it. Okay, great question. So currently, much of this has been on private gifts. Right, so that's the work that we're doing with the foundation. Right, currently we have $3 million gifted. We're working towards, right now our foundation, believes we can get another $2 million for that. That's where we're at, but that's not what's given yet. Right, that would take a great deal of work for them still to go out, and they're confident that they can do that. At this point, we're looking at $5 million there. If after these discussions and so forth, if we feel that we need more money to go towards the project, then we're going to need to talk about what types of opportunities do we have to either raise more money or find other funding formulas to make that happen. So that's a part of this discussion, and that's a really pivotal part of the timeline discussion. Right, we need to understand those things, make sure we know exactly where we're moving with this, to be able to roll out a timeline and for me to be able to communicate that to you. But right now, all of this is by private gifts.
Are there any good questions? Vice President Bowman.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you for coming tonight. I know in some previous conversations, one thing I found really interesting and you spoke to tonight was when you came and kind of saw our definition of multicultural here at K-State, and that was really interesting to me to hear from an outside perspective. So I was wondering, during your time here so far, what are some other things from the outside perspective do you see as a challenge to the K-State community in regards to diversity, inclusion, and equity?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming to K-State and just hearing a lot of our discussions centered around topics of diversity and inclusion, we're really focused on ethnicity and racial discussions. And quite honestly, I'm used to a much broader discussion, really focused on intersectionality and all of the different identity groups that are represented right here in this room. Right, and this is a lot about telling our own stories, understanding each other. Being a part of a large organization, but we all bring our unique selves, our authentic selves to K-State. And it's important to be valued for who we are and where we come from. And so a lot of discussions, that I've been a part of through my work as an administrator, as an educator, as a collaborator, and working on diversity inclusion efforts have really centered on that. It's about understanding each of our own identities and our unique perspectives. But coming here, a lot of the discussion was really focused really around that central notion of diversity is race, ethnicity. And so that was a little surprising to me. I'm used to, a little bit more of an involved discussion on that. But I think, and as I've been working and listening, there's been a great deal of discussion and interest in intercultural learning. And that's really the central focus of what we're hoping to do and the work that continues to be done. And, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, that involves all of us. All of us. And so it's important that we have these great discussions and we create platforms for us to do so.
Any other questions? Senator Kelly.
Thanks. So Adrian, I know that last semester the Office of the President charged a 4-H specialist, I think Alaya, with conducting focus groups on, I think what she coined the One Family Initiative, focused on intercultural learning. I'm wondering what what she found from that and how that informs your work now.
You said that very well, extremely well articulated. The One Family Initiative is an incredible bedrock to the intercultural learning and the discussion and dialogue that we're having. In fact, from 4 to 5 o'clock this afternoon, I was with Elias, and we're talking about that work, right? And so throughout the fall, last spring, throughout this past academic year, let's say, over 1,000 individuals were touched by either IDI or intercultural learning concepts. B. Stoney also worked closely with her in that work. And it's amazing work. Our entire senior leadership team's been through that. It creates some common language for us as we talk about competencies. And so as you saw in the organizational chart, intercultural learning is actually very centric to the work that we're doing. That's why in our organizational chart, it is keystone to the work that we'll be doing, because the heart of our work is intercultural. IDI is a tool, but the model behind it, what undergirds IDI, which is an assessment tool, is intercultural learning. And so that's our focus.
Time for questions expired. Is there a motion to extend question time? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other open period speakers? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and with our agenda. Next item on our agenda was the approval of the minutes. Minutes were distributed out. Were there any corrections or changes that needed made? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Chair Nidri?
I move we approve the minutes.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Any objections? Seeing none, minutes approved. All right, next item on our agenda is the announcements. We received an email this week about the next provost, and the list has been narrowed down to the top 4 candidates. They have invited us, along with other student leadership organizations such as GSC, to attend, greet some of these candidates. These events will take place next week, and as you guys can see in the announcement for the week, you guys will be able to see the times, dates, locations of where these will be taking place, and then also there's going to be an open forum sessions starting next week. And then also the judicial branch is also looking for the next group of members. So Haley has asked me to encourage you all to nominate somebody to apply and serve on the group. And then proxies for tonight are Akers for Bukereed, Pitts for Daw, Bergeston for Flores. And as always, if you're going to be absent from Senate, please fill out the proxy form. With that being done, we'll move on to commendations. Is there Oh, yeah, my bad. SGA Member of the Week this week goes to Federal Relations Director Trent Kennedy. Trent played a big role this week in coordinating meetings with the legislators for the case delegation and helping prepare talking points for all schools on higher education issues for the Big 12 on the Hill Student Government Conference. So, Trent here, we'll still give him a clap. And also, this week we do have a couple of committee meetings happening, special committee membership at 2 o'clock, as well as GR, OCAC, and TAC, and you guys can see the rest of the meetings taking place that week as well. So, without further ado, we'll move on to commendations. And is there a motion for resolution 47? Will the author come up? Is there a motion for resolution 47?
I move resolution 47.
Second. It's been moved and seconded for resolution 47. Will the author please come up?
I just have to preface this with that I was not actually the author. Emily Meinhardt is actually doing real ag things. She's at a bull sale right now. But this was her first piece of legislation that she ever wrote, so I think that if you guys see her, commend her for doing that, because it's really hard to do that as an intern. But I'll go ahead and read it then. Resolution 171847, Commendation to the Kansas State University Livestock Judging Team. By Emily Meinhardt, Sarah Neatery, Jansen Penny, Lacey Pitts, Aaron Hendrickson, Carlos Flores, Emily Zwick, Nels Bergstein, Adam Houghton, and Sarah Gammon. Whereas the Kansas State University Livestock Judging Team ended their season being named Reserve National Champions at the 112th National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest in Louisville, Kentucky. This contest is part of the North American International Livestock Exposition that took place on November 14th, 2007. Whereas the team finishes include Reserve National Champion Team Overall, Champion Team Performance Cattle, Reserve Champion Team Oral Reasons, Reserve Champion Team Cattle, Reserve Champion Team Sheep, and Reserve Champion All-Team Performance classes. Whereas individual finishes include Brooke Jensen, 6th overall, 5th Sheep, 10th Performance Swine, 7th Beef, 8th Beef Reasons, 1st Performance Beef, 4th Total Reasons, Matt Marion, 9th overall, 1st Sheep, 1st Beef Reasons, 7th Performance Beef, 6th Total Reasons, Callahan Grund, 6th Performance Swine, 2nd Beef, 3rd Beef Reasons, 4th Performance Beef, 8 Total Reasons, and Emily Voris, 8th Swine Reasons. Whereas throughout the season, Callahan Grund placed high individual overall at the American Royal Competition. Whereas 4 members were awarded the title of All-American based on judging careers. This award is based off of accomplishments, academic excellence, and industry leadership. The team members include Chase Gleason, Uniontown, Kansas, Callahan Grund, Wallace, Kansas, Brooke Jensen, Cortland, Kansas, and Leah Schultz, Lancaster, Kansas. And whereas team members include Trevor Berkey, Winneba, Nebraska, Chase Gleason, Uniontown, Kansas, Callahan Grund, Wallace, Kansas, Lauren Ivy, Montpelier, Virginia, right? Okay. Brooke Jensen, Cortland, Kansas, Matt Marion, Montezuma, Indiana, Austin Matheny, Mayslick, Kentucky, Cor Renner, Norton, Kansas, Leah Schultz, Effingham, Kansas, Jesse Vallejo, Gridley, California, and Emily Voris, Atwater, California. Be it resolved that Section 1, Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends the excellence of K-State Livestock Judging Team members demonstrate. The Student Governing Association appreciates the time and effort students within the College of Agriculture put forth not only in academics, but in competition teams as well.
All right. Any questions?
Sarah, will there be a recipients list added to this competition?
Oh, yes. We will add recipients, and the two coaches, as well as all of the people that normally get these, will all get them. Does that make sense? I'm sorry.
Any questions or corrections? See none. Is there a motion?
I move we approve this commendation unanimously.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 47 unanimously. Any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 47 passes unanimously. Is there a motion for Resolution 52? Chair Nidri.
I move resolution 52.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 52. Would the author please come up?
Resolution 17-1852, Commendation to the K-State University Mock Trial Club by Nathan Bothwell, Emma-D. Moranville, Saiba Grover, and Victor Valdez. Whereas Mock Trial Club is an academic competition team that offers an opportunity for aspiring attorneys and actors to form teams and prepare to try cases against other universities from across the country. Teams are made up of 6 to 8 students who take on the roles of both attorneys and witnesses in the trial. Teams argue both sides of the case several times each tournament, and the same case is used for the entire competitive season. Whereas, on February 17th and 18th, 2018, Mock Trial Club A team competed at regionals at Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas. KSU Mock Trial Club A team scored high enough to receive one of 7 bids to attend the opening round championship series, which is the first round of national competition. The competition will be at Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, and take place on March 23rd through 25th, 2018. Whereas KSU Mock Trial Club also won the Spirit of American Mock Trial Association, or AMTA Award. The Spirit of AMTA Award is given to one team that best exemplifies civility, justice, and fair play. All teams competing in the competition nominate another team that best exemplifies these ideals, and the team with the most nominations receives the award. And whereas members of the Mock Trial Club A team include Dakota Backus, Alyssa Kaler, Kelly Robinson, Ben Wahlberg, Jacob Kuckelman, and Tom McLean. They are coached by Ben Long, Mark Brinkworth, and Ashley Ellens. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, commends the Mock Trial Club team for their excellence and hard work. Student Governing Association values the dedication made by students in class and in competition teams that represent Kansas State University. Section 2. Upon passage by Student Senate and signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Dakota Backus, Alyssa Kaler, Kelly Robinson, Ben Wahlberg, Jacob Kuckelman, and Tom McLean, members of the Mock Trial Club A team, Ben Long, Mark Brinkworth, and Ashley Ellens, coaches of the Mock Trial Club, Darylyn Gordon-Narada, coordinator for the Office of Pre-Law Advising, Amit Chakrabarty, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Pat Bosco, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students, and General Richard Myers, President of Kansas State University.
Are there any corrections or questions? Caucus Leader Rostenpol.
So I've heard in the past that President Myers prefers to just go by President Myers, not General Myers. So I don't know, like, how should we understand it?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. We can change it.
Okay. Any other corrections? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Senator Kelly?
I move we approve this resolution unanimously.
Second.
It's been seconded. It's been moved and seconded to approve this resolution unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 52 will be approved unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda were committee reports. Minutes were distributed out, and also the director's reports. Are there any committee chairs that would like to make a report? Chair Nidri.
Okay, so thanks for dealing with me and the athletics thing being introduced a little early. Privilege fee, we'll be looking at this on Monday, so if you'd like to come or discuss anything about that bill, please come on Monday. And next week, if it passes the privilege fee committee, it will be brought for introduction of legislation. So just to clear up anything, but email me with questions. But we're excited for the new agreement. Thanks.
Any other committee chairs would like to make a report? Senator Curley.
All right, good evening, everybody. So today, I kind of wanted to just give a brief recap about the work that the Special Committee on Membership's been doing the past semester, or I guess the beginning of this semester. Does this clicker work? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
So last semester, the committee determined that there was a lack of proper representation in Senate. We looked at the intern program, and we came up with a couple ideas. One of them was a fellowship program to supplement the intern program in an attempt to enrich and diversify elections. And the committee voted last semester in favor of a trial run. Many of you might have seen them in our viewing area, and we unveiled that program this semester. So the purpose of this program was to educate and enrich students of all demographics as to the functions, procedures, and methods of involvement within SGA, as well as inevitably to more accurately represent the student body. Basically, those took place right before Senate. They were 55 minutes from 6 to 6:55. They met in the Center for Student Involvement, and then we went around the union. So the curriculum that we taught, basically, like I said, 4 informational sessions every week on Thursday before Senate. A lot of them came to Senate afterwards and were engaged. We went over all major topics in SGA. We had guest speakers at every session, and one of the biggest things that we found important was to inform them about election deadlines and the rules.
Yeah, so here's a brief overview of what we did each session. Again, there were 4 sessions total. In the first session, we did a quick overview, just quick and dirty. Dr. Pat Bosco, I know was here earlier. He came and spoke kind of about his experience with SGA. Our second session was a legislative branch, talked about the whole legislative branch, did a couple activities. We did a fake debate, and it was mediated by Jonathan, so that was pretty cool. Our third session was pretty packed. Corbin came and talked about rules for running. He's our elections commissioner. We did a chalking activity with him to kind of get people thinking about what their slogans would look like, their little logos. It was pretty fun. Sarah McDermott spoke kind of about her experience with running in the student body president election. And then Haley Hanneman came and walked us through some mock trials for judicial. Our last session was cabinet and kind of the executive branch. Jordan Keel came, talked about the executive branch. She kind of walked us through an activity, developing our own projects on campus, kind of talking through how that process works of identifying steps and stakeholders in those conversations. So, and then Jack came and talked about legislative advocacy, both statewide and nationwide. So thanks for that, Jack.
So just a couple of testimonials as some of the students that completed the program. The first one is by a freshman in business administration. His name is Vedant Kulkarni, and so he said, during the fellowship, I had the opportunity to learn how student government works and its functions. The AFP, or Accelerated Fellowship Program, gave me the tools that enabled me to advocate for myself and other international students like myself. Had I have not attended the fellowship, I would have never known about SGA or filed for Senate. And one of our other fellows who gave her testimony, Madison Brown, who's a sophomore in business administration. She said, for me, the fellowship program helped open a door to SGA that felt was closed off before. Not being an intern, I found it hard to get involved in SGA, and the fellowship program gave me the resources and chance to do that. The AFP, or Accelerated Fellowship Program, helped me feel more welcome coming to Senate, and also gave me the tools and support to file and run.
So here's just a little information about the numbers of the participants in the program. Of those fellows who attended 2 or more sessions, 80% filed for Senate. Of those who attended 3 or more sessions, 92% filed for Senate. And of those who attended all 4 sessions, 100% filed for Senate. Here's the breakdown of all of those students who filed to run for Senate this year. Accelerated Fellowship Program, we had 17, which accounts for 22% of the total pie. Interns 16, 20%, and senators 12, which accounts for 15%. Returning senators, that is. So that's all we got. Questions?
Any questions for Chair Kelly? Intern Coordinator Jewel.
Just with the numbers of participants, what are going to be your recruitment and or marketing techniques to getting this program out if it moves forward?
That's a great question. And that's a conversation we're having in committee right now. I would invite you this Sunday. We're going to have a special committee on membership meeting to really determine the direction that we're going to take these numbers. Because right now, they're pretty telling, but I would say that we could be doing a better job. So, like I said, Sunday at 2 p.m.
Cox Leader Valdez.
What's the main difference between AFP and the intern program?
That's a good question. The question was, what's the difference between the intern program and the Accelerated Fellowship Program? Maybe you can touch on this, but I would say that the access, the ease of access. The intern program is selective in nature, which, because it is year long, right? And we have to identify the people who will be very passionate about those roles. I think what the Accelerated Fellowship Program did was provide that education, well, not the same level of education, but provide an abbreviated education in 4 weeks, right? So students who don't have the time, right, to go to Senate the entire year long, or just want to learn about SGA, for 4 weeks and not really be involved, I think that this was a good outlet for them to get that education.
Can I ask?
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I refer to Caucus Leader Ross.
Oh.
Okay, I want to continue. So I sit on the special committee as well, and I think a really big thing that I thought was an awesome difference was the fact that it was later. So a lot of people, like the first month of school, don't know about SGA, don't know about the intern program. So if you're a freshman, usually it's like a referral to get in of someone who's in SGA. Whereas if we started in January, people had heard about SGA throughout the year and were able to get involved. Whereas the intern program's kind of closed off if you don't hear about it right away.
Any other questions? Caucus Leader Pitts.
This kind of isn't following what Ramin said as well, but at orientation and enrollment, they speak about the intern program every summer. So would you be willing to do that for the Accelerated Fellowship Program as well in order to engage freshmen right away? Have you had those conversations?
That's definitely something we'll bring up in committee on Sunday. I'd invite you there.
Senator Hughes.
So obviously this was kind of like, let's get something off the ground right now. Are you looking like next semester to have like a longer program, more than just 4 weeks, or do you think the 4-week program, the short time commitment is good?
It's a great question. And again, I'll say that we haven't really solidified our direction with the special committee. So Sunday at 2 p.m., we'll be having a committee meeting, and I invite you there.
Any other questions? Caucus Leader Valdez.
Do you foresee any conflicts resulting from the Accelerated Fellowship Program and the intern program in the future pertaining to the recruitment and retention in terms of the intern program, since the intern program is a longer term thing where the Accelerated Fellowship Program is a shorter thing?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that what we do now is we have to work with all stakeholders involved, right, and identify the benefits of each program. And we need to find a systematic way that we can work with our future intern coordinators, our future special committee on membership, whatever that looks like next year, and identify the most logical, efficient approach to educating students.
Senator McDermott.
Yeah, I'd refer to Caucus Leader McDermott.
So
Approved.
I would also say that there's no shortage of students that we're trying to target to, and since the intern program has a cap on it and this program doesn't, we can reach a lot more students in a lot shorter amount of time. Because there are, more than 30 students each semester who want to get involved with student government.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Just to say, in total, we had 34 people attend our program, so there's an additional 34 people who were interested in SGA who did come to the fellowship.
Any other questions? Sina, great job. Were there any other committees that would like to make a report? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to director's report. Are there any directors who would like to make any reports? Director Kuchera. Sorry.
So before I turn the microphone over to Haley Spellman, why don't you go up, because I know you're already working on your laptops on really good student government stuff. Would you pull up my email from Tuesday of this week that has the 2 links to the 2 surveys?
Hello again. So over the last couple weeks, we've released 2 surveys. One of them was the position survey. The second most recent one was the committee survey. Basically, what we're trying to do is kind of like with the Accelerated Fellowship Program is to increase diversity in SGA. So you'll notice that a lot of people in SGA and even students outside don't really know about the functions and the specific roles within the organization. So with this 2 surveys that we launched, we are trying to focus specifically looking at the position one, focusing on specific roles, how many hours you work per week, what exactly you do while you're in SGA. So the second survey that we launched, the committee survey, that's focusing on just the committees that you're in, looking at the specific roles there. If you're a committee chair, what exactly you do while you're a chair on the committee. So we're just trying to figure out the positions, the functions, and trying to get more students in SGA involved. So kind of like what Stephen was saying, pull out both of those emails. There's going to be 2 of them, one from last week, one from this Tuesday that just passed. Surveys should take about 5 to 10 minutes per each one. So I would really appreciate if all of you filled that out, whether it's one of them tonight, the other one tomorrow. For the position survey, out of the 150 people that we sent it out to, I only have 28 responses. Out of that 28 responses, 19 is from the legislative branch. So we really, really, really need you guys to fill out this survey and trying to get this information to students going outside of SGA. And then for the committee survey, I only have 6 surveys for that one. So these surveys have been up for a while. Please take the time now and fill those out for me. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do that now.
So just the rest of the time that I have, go ahead and open it and start working on the surveys. And then you can finish that up later on tonight or later on this meeting, because I'm sure you're going to be doing other really good student government stuff on your laptops.
Any questions for Director Kuchera and Ms. Haley? Senator Kelly?
Well, they're going to give time.
Yeah, we're just going to let the rest of the time run so they can start working on their surveys.
Okay. Sounds good.
And we're here if you have any questions, just raise your hands.
Okay. While you guys are figuring out, are there any other directors who would like to make a report? Are there any other directors who would like to make another report? Yes.
Also, Jordan has also made a card on one of the SGA cards for Heather Reed. She's one of our advisors. You don't see her as much as Bill because she works a lot with the executive branch. So today's her birthday. So write your name on her card and we're gonna give that to her.
I have her number. She's at dinner with her husband right now.
Yeah, I didn't know it was her birthday. I texted her. I was like, "You're gonna be at tonight and ask me a question." She's like, "No, I'm not gonna be here."
Are there any other directors who would like to make any reports? Do you guys want to go?
Yeah.
You guys can come out.
Well,
yeah, he's still.
Okay. 3 minutes.
I was yeah, I thought you were going to do it. Are you not cold there? My hands could be used to cool down your drink. I'm really cold. My hands are really cold. I'm too. Did everybody have a good week? Hey Sam, I sent you an email of the section that needed added. It was like on our original one.
Nope.
Should I just not
Do you want to do the Big 12 on the hill first? Okay.
Because
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Would there be any other directors want to make a report? Okay. Chair Nidri, Ms. Bowman. Oh, and Jack.
I think we're good. No,
Is this working?
Hey everybody, so if you didn't know, 5 of us traveled to DC this past Sunday through Tuesday night on behalf of K-State SGA for Big 12 on the Hill. Awesome. So just a quick conference overview. So this is something hosted each year in the spring with all the Big 12 universities. So as you can see, all 10 universities were there. This year it was hosted by West Virginia. And just a reminder, next year K-State will be hosting the fall conference. So all the Big 12 University SGA delegations will be coming here. And then the following year we would be hosting it in Washington, D.C. So it's a cycle that's kind of a 2-year cycle. So the conference legislative focuses this year included HEA authorization, DACA and immigration, sexual assault prevention, college affordability, and mental health. And we'll kind of go into how that looks during our conference.
Yeah, so is this working? Yeah. So day one, we got in late afternoon, evening on Sunday. Yeah, sorry, this week's been crazy. On Sunday, so we had a couple people present to us, just some outside information so we could kind of get rolling for the day. The delegation introduced, delegation introduction updates. So each of the Big 12 schools, the 10 Big 12 schools, sorry, Nick Edwards, presented about what their student government had been doing since our last meeting. We did some goal setting, and then we did breakout discussions. Jack led one of those, so that each of the topics that we were wanting to kind of talk to our delegations about, we could get a quick recap of those. Okay, and then next. Yeah.
Nobody will believe it here, but I actually gave the shortest update. Everybody else droned on, like I usually do up here. I gave a markedly short update. How great was that? Anyway.
We're all very shocked.
Okay, so day two was spent, half of our time was spent at the ALPU, the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, which all of the public Big 12 schools are a part of, and then spent the other half on the Hill. So the first half of the day, you guys can read for yourselves, but the one I wanted to point out the most was a DACA conversation, which I thought gave me the most information, and it was cool because our school, we have conversations about a lot, but some of the other Big 12 schools never really hear about it. And so I'm going to let Olivia go on into like what they presented about really quick.
Yeah, so we heard from Forward.us or US. I don't know actually how to present.
Forward.us.
Okay, US. And it was a really good conversation. It was just kind of some information about DACA. And I was pretty impressed as a K-State delegation. I think we did a lot of work here on campus. So applauding our students here on campus and SGA for being really involved in that. But it was a really good time for all the delegations to ask questions, get more information. And they kind of went over best advocacy practices when talking to our senators and congressmen and women. And then one thing that's kind of bullet pointed there is President's Immigration Alliance. So one of the presenters, Elysia, mentioned this kind of organization thing that different university presidents have band together to show their commitment to a welcoming campus and environment, whether that's international students, DACA students, anything really. So it looked like a really cool thing, and she challenged us as student leaders to look to see if our university presidents were on that list, were in that group, and having this nationwide discussion within higher education on these issues facing our students and communities. So we're working to contact President Myers and are hoping that he'll become part of that conversation, and we think it's a really good opportunity to get a little bit further involved.
They've said that none of the presidents in Big 12 are on there now, right?
No, they are. So University of Oklahoma, I think, was one, and there might have been another one, but it ranged from like Harvard University to it's a big range. But right now we're not currently on it, but that's something we're hoping that President Myers will take into consideration.
Yeah, so then we had a little update from the ALPU about what they had been working on and some key one-liners that we could use when we were talking to our delegation.
Sorry. Yep. I'm going to add one more thing. So also one thing the APL, you mentioned that we're also going to be inquiring to President Myers about is currently they're working to gather 100 different universities, public and land-grant universities across the nation to come into groups of 10 university clusters and have conversations regarding enrollment, retention, those types of things. So we thought as a delegation too that that's something that we could really apply here at K-State and are hoping to get on that list. The only thing that he shared with us was that 60 universities have been approached, so it's not really necessarily something I think that universities are asking to be a part of. It's something that they're asking university to be a part of. So we're hoping.
Time for the speakers is expired. Is there a motion to extend the speaker's time? Senator Kelly.
I move we extend the speaker's time by 10 minutes.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by 10 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you got 10 minutes.
Thanks, Ryan. So we're hoping that maybe we have been approached and asked. He didn't mention a list or anything, but if not, hopefully we can get on that list because we think it'd really apply here at K-State.
Awesome. So then I'm going to just go fast. So then we went to the Hill, talked about those things. Senator Shelley Moore, she gave us a little insight about what's going on the Hill right now and what their conversations are about so that we could be prepared in our conversations. And then the Senate Democrats Help staff members gave us a little more information on the higher ed reauthorization. So, and Jack will go more in depth in that later.
All right. Also on day 2 was a meeting with the governor because he was in D.C. that was supposed to be about policy and ended up being a 30-second photo op, but I'm not upset about it. So anyway, day 3. So we were on the Hill all day meeting with our Kansas delegation, as you can see up there. I think everybody except for Congressman Estes met with us in person, which was really provided for some good conversations. I think there or some differences amongst the different representatives and senators as far as what they're receptive to. It's always kind of interesting to hear about their experiences. Representative Yoder, for example, went to KU and was a Pell eligible student, and the Pell Grant has helped him get through KU. And so that was kind of, he's always very receptive to Pell Grant funding, as we've talked about that. So anyway, but what we talked about with all of our delegation are the Higher Ed Act and DACA, because those we feel are the two most pertinent legislative priorities. That's what's being discussed right now in the House and Senate sides respectively. So I don't want to go too in depth. I know that Trent and I have talked last week about our kind of concerns with some of the Prosper Act, which is the House's version of the Higher Ed Act reauthorization, but we had some, good discussion with the representatives on, what they could possibly do. Representative Yoder had actually indicated that he might be interested in amending that the Prosper Act on the floor. It's already through the House, but it's already through the House committee. Sorry, but out of that committee came some pretty bad things, especially for grad students. Elimination of Grad Plus loans, loan caps at $28,500 a year, and things like that. Now, it does expand the Pell Grant by about 1.1 million additional students, and that's actually something that we talked about with the APLU because it's their position. They support 4-year public universities, and the Pell expansion would, I think, be used for a lot for career and technical education, which, I personally think is good. It's definitely not the position of the APLU or of K-State, but we had some good kind of discussion about that. And then DACA, I think that there was a lot of, they were very receptive to DACA, especially talking about how we needed to make, almost everybody was receptive to talking about DACA, Congressman Estes. So there was a good, that was Olivia and Trent in that meeting, so we'll have to ask her about that. But there was, I think, some, and I'll talk about this here on the next slide, but there was some, it's very timely with looking at DACA and how the Supreme Court have pretty much arbitrarily moved the deadline to October, in the sense that they'll still allow renewals while an appeals court looks at this case. And so that has provided some time, which sounds good, but one of the things that both Congressman Marshall and Congresswoman Jenkins had mentioned is that it kind of removes, she said, or I think to quote Dr. Marshall, he said, we had a gun to our head and we no longer have that. So, because of this timeline, if it's not as pertinent, there's no push for it. She's kind of like, we need deadlines in this town to make it work. So it's not, so it's good that we have more time, of course, but at the same time, there's not as much motivation, I think, to get it done now, if that makes sense.
And one thing to add to that, too, I just want to shout out to Director Mary Boonman. She's not here tonight, but for organizing that letter writing campaign that many of you contributed to. When we hand-delivered those to each member of the delegation, and honestly, it was a really cool thing to kind of see their face light up, to see actual students' stories and perspectives on it. So I just want to point that out, too, because even though a letter writing campaign maybe not the most complex thing, not to discredit it at all, but it might be not the most complex thing to organize, it really does have an impact. And like Jack said, with a little bit less urgency on them now, now more than ever is a great time to voice your opinions and reach out, because they really do see those, and hopefully we'll take those in consideration.
When I handed a packet to Congresswoman Jenkins, she says, "Do I get to keep these?" So she was really excited for the letters that she had.
Absolutely. So I think kind of next steps, like I said, I already kind of jumped into this, with DACA being moved to October, or the timeline at least, the deadline being moved to October. But I think there needs to be continued advocacy on that. I think that's one of the reasons why, to what kind of Olivia said about how giving the letters then kind of keeps it at the forefront, allowing the members of Congress to read those and kind of be a part of that discussion, kind of keeps it relevant. The other thing is, I was going to mention some next steps for the Higher Ed Act reauthorization. So there is, obviously, like I mentioned, Congressman Yoder potentially looking at doing having some action on that. The other thing is, the Senate version of this bill is going to look dramatically different, and that's pretty much everybody across the board, including Senator Roberts' office, has said that pretty directly, that the Senate bill is going to look very different than the House bill. It's going to be bipartisan. The Senate doesn't have the luxury of passing things on a party line, and I think that will provide some good opportunity for better discussion, and really, I think it'll be way more bipartisan. But kind of in addition to that, there's the College Transparency Act of 2017, which is on the Senate side of the things right now, that we had talked with Senator Roberts' staff about, and I think that provides a lot of federal reporting requirements to provide some accountability and some transparency for metrics for how a university is doing with student retention and student loan repayment, things like that. So we are pushing for that. That's something that we're able to work with the APLU on, kind of get their push for that, because Senator Roberts is the only senator on the HELP committee that represents a Big 12 school. So he's pretty key to that. All right.
Yeah, and then on this one, so delegation takeaways. So this is kind of a list, what we talked about that first day. It was kind of a short 2 hours, but hearing from other universities. And it's always a really good time to kind of get ideas and hear about their experiences and what they're working on, and see what can translate here to K-State. So I'm just going to go through these really quick, but the purpose of putting these up here is, on some of these, we haven't dug into it all as an exec team or administration or whatever, but we're only so many people, and we would love to have you, student government individuals, if something like really sticks out to you, take the lead on it, and we'd love to support you and connect you with resources if it's something you think would be impactful here at K-State. But we just wanted to share some ideas in case anyone feels particularly excited about helping implement one. And like I said, some of these might be implemented and we just don't know about it yet, but just kind of want to do some digging on them because we thought they'd be valuable. So this first one, LGBTQ plus and ally training, that was something I think was happening at, where was it? Do you remember? I think it was Texas Tech. And then It's On Us campaign. I know we have a CARE office, but really maybe reinvigorating the It's On Us campaign, because it truly is on us as students. And TCU has some really awesome programming. It's actually a part of their SGA, under their SGA programming. SGA hosted town halls with administrators and campus leaders. So you all got to hear from Dr. Rodriguez tonight. We got to hear from athletics tonight. So in this room, we get to hear from a lot of campus leaders and administrators, but maybe expanding that out into hosting events for the whole student body to come ask questions and learn about different things. Service days was something that quite a few universities implement and have multiple days throughout the year, and they really are integrated service learning into their campus communities, so campus-wide service projects to be organized. One thing that was kind of fun, Nick, maybe you want to look into this, athletic game partnerships. So one thing, I don't remember which two schools did it, but at one of their basketball games, they did kind of divide it on the court, but together for mental health, I think it was, or something like that.
It wasn't KU.
It wasn't KU. But just kind of bringing some fun to game day with another Big 12 university over a topic that is impacting both of our campuses mutually would be really cool. Class gifts is what UT Austin also talked about a little bit. And we thought we could look into that senior sidewalk of bricks over by NSS. I don't know what year it drops off at, but I'm a senior. I'd like to put a brick in the
brick in the road, I don't know. But kind of looking into something fun like that. And then another school said that they were working, I think it was Iowa State, with some alternatives with cost of education, doing a tax-free weekend for school supplies, so advocating for that at their state level. So that would help both K-12 in our state as well as students here.
I thought that was interesting. Missouri does that, but Kansas, despite our love for eliminating taxes, have never done that. So
yeah, these are just some ideas that we took away, and if you're interested in them, please email any of us. Would love to get you in contact with. We have a whole group me of the different schools and the delegations, and they have a lot of work on different things. So yeah.
Any questions for the speakers? Seeing none, thank you. And then we have a part 2 update.
Sorry, you guys are hearing from me a lot tonight.
I get this.
So 2 different things. Kind of timely with Dr. Rodriguez here. I got to attend PCMA, which is the President's Commission on Multicultural Affairs, and Diversity Point People meeting. I'm just gonna hold this. And so Dr. Rodriguez actually presented at that meeting as well, but Senator Kelly kind of asked about the IDI, and I just wanted to share with you a few quick updates, and we're going to try to look into bringing both Aliyah as well as Dr. B. Stoney, who's working on it. This is separate, so who are both working on it to Student Senate to give a little bit more of an in-depth update. But I just wanted to point out a few things I thought were pretty prominent from their presentation. So they had mentioned that the President's Cabinet, Provost staff, and all the Dean's Council have been trained with the IDI so far, and they're looking to expand it. Some of the takeaways they had from the many on-campus conversations with students, they said over about 1,000 different people were voiced in this experience. A few of their takeaways was that people had a general overestimation of intercultural competency here. They thought that as a community, we're checking that diversity box. We're not actually integrating it as well as we think, and it's kind of a box to check off the list. People saw a lack of college and unit-specific plans, a little bit of miscommunication on campus climate survey and the importance of that. People saw a lack of principles of community being integrated into our classrooms and our community as much as it probably should be. Some interesting things, so graduate teaching assistant, they saw a lack of opportunity for diversity and inclusion training. One thing that they're looking into implementing is when they were, I don't remember the exact context, but basically when people are submitting a statement to be hired, that they would also have to submit a diversity statement, which a bunch of other institutions include. So looking into that. For students, for dominant student cultures, they saw a lack of curiosity to learn and grow outside of their own cultures. And for students maybe of the less dominant cultures, they saw tokenization and fatigue from those students. For intercultural learning, they thought self-awareness was a big component of that. And then one thing I thought was really interesting that they mentioned so they did fall and spring conversations, and one thing that they mentioned was they felt that there was a shift in those conversations after KS Unite happened. And I thought that was kind of interesting and asked them a little bit to share what type of shift they saw. And they think that it was a pretty positive shift, that there was a new appreciation that people are doing something, and even though maybe to some students KS Unite or faculty, staff, community members, maybe KS Unite wasn't exactly what they envisioned or what exactly it all encompassed, but it was something new, and it was a risk that people were taking to do something and try to make change. So they saw kind of a positive reaction from that. They also, which was interesting, they also saw that people started to recognize the work that is being done. And I think that was kind of a cool component, because a lot of times people don't recognize things until something bad happens. So while we still have a lot of work to do, there is really great work being done, and they saw that a lot more in conversations. So sorry that was kind of long, but hopefully we can get them here to talk more in depth about it, because I think it's really relevant, especially to Dr. Rodriguez presenting tonight. And then really quick, Jonathan, who is not here tonight, and Corbin asked me to do something similar to SGA Week, and I know it's kind of been a long sentence so far, so please sign up to help do elections, so tabling for elections, and those are the 3 different locations that they've put out. And go ahead and do that, and we'll do the same thing we did for SGA Week and kind of wait until it's full. Yes.
Are people who are running for Senate positions or elected positions allowed to sign up for this?
I was given the document. I don't know that question. You're on the elections committee. What's your?
I would say no.
Okay, so probably not.
But noted there are only 12 people who have filed to run who are existing senators. So that means that there are probably 48 others who can sign up now.
So we shouldn't be a lack of people still, is Stephen's point. Thank you, Megan Hyatt. Lead the pact.
Are there any questions? Senator Garcia.
Was there an email that was sent out with the link for this?
It hasn't been sent? Okay, sorry. I was just told to put this up on the PowerPoint today. So
Okay.
we can get that sent out.
Let's just have that sent out and people can fill out, and then if it hasn't been filled,
Then I'll
okay.
come talk again in second open period,
Yeah.
and no one wants that. So
Yeah.
I'll send it out. Please send it.
Yeah. Are there any other directors who'd like to make a report? President Ayres. Oh boy.
I took a week off of going to Topeka, so I don't have that much to talk about. Tina, that's your response? Oh boy.
Hey man.
I got an 11 here. All right, so I just want to talk real quickly about provost on-campus interviews schedule. I know that was included in the announcements, so I want to go through real quick though and get a show of hands to see who can attend each of these sessions. So 4 excellent candidates. I'll talk about them real quick, and then we'll go into the meetings. Charles Tabor is is a vice president at Stony Brook, which is part of the SUNY system in New York, right, James? Higher ed expert over there. Thank you. Daniel Reed is the University of Iowa. Our very own John Flores, Dean of College of Agriculture and Research and Extension at K-State. Kimberly Espy is a vice president, or is a senior vice president for research at the University of Arizona. And really excited to have all these candidates come on campus. I think a critical component of what's going to make this search successful and get us the best candidate is interaction with the students. Because I think what's kind of brought up before is I'm the only student on this committee, and I did my best to try to see what and how I would interact with my perspective as a student. It's important to get kind of expand the scope on that. So Charles Tabor is the first candidate who'll be on campus Monday through Wednesday, although he wins Salina on Wednesday. So the meeting with SGA is Tuesday, March 6th. From 8:15 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the Ectel room of Rainier Hall. So by show of hands, who can go to that meeting on the 6th?
The 6th at what time?
The 6th at 8:15 a.m. 8:15 to 9 o'clock. There'll be some sort of something there, coffee or otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. So okay, about 6. Everybody else? Cool. I'll touch base with Derek at the NGSC. I just want to give some, general idea for how many people are going to be able to be there. Daniel Reed is March 6th. That's also Tuesday. So back to back from 9:45 to 10:30 a.m. 1, 2.
Can you say that again?
Yep. Daniel Reed from the University of Iowa will be here March 6th. That's the same day as the other individual, from 9:45 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And that is in room 2123 Rainier Hall. I'll make sure this gets sent out. I think it should be in the agenda though, right? Yeah. Everybody saw it? Cool.
Hey Jack.
6 again. Yes.
On the previous one, I can attend that.
Okay. Got about 7. Got about 8. That's really good. I just want to make sure it's not 2 people and myself. John Flores on the 12th. From 8:15 to 9 a.m. in the Ectel room.
What day?
The 12th is.
Monday.
All right, I heard Thursday, Monday, and Wednesday. It's Monday.
The 6th.
One. All right, so let's do that again. Monday, the 12th, 8:15 to 9 a.m. in the Ectel room. 1, 2, 2.5, 3. Okay, cool. All right, and Kimberly Espy is March 13th, which is a Tuesday then, from 8:45 to 9:30 a.m. here in the Union. And then I won't ask for kind of RSVP or otherwise for the open forums, but those are March 5th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. in the Alumni Center, March 6th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. in the new Rainier Forum. Nate, is that the new big classroom?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The really awesome looking classroom and new seating, whatever you call it. John Floros is March 12th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. in Alumni Center Ballroom. Kimberly Espy is March 13th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. in the Alumni Center Ballroom as well, or banquet room, I guess. So that is, I believe, all I have.
Any questions for President Aris? Director Kuchera.
Will the open forums be streamed and feedback opportunities similar to Associate Vice President?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I meant to mention that. They will be streamed, and I believe they'll be recorded in the same way that's available for 24 hours. Although there was kind of a conversation about having them available for longer than that. I'm not entirely sure where we landed on that. There might have been some sort of reason for that. But the feedback will go directly to the president, and that will be conducted through our search firm, Storbeck Pimentel, and the link will be sent out with that on the day of the forum, if they haven't already been sent out. I doubt they have been, though.
Any other questions for President Aris? Seeing none, thank you, President Aris. That was pretty good. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda, College Caucus time. There won't be any College Caucus time. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the final action. So the approval of minor allocations. But we don't have any. However, we'll move on to final action. And will the author please come forward for Bill 61? Senator Kelly.
I move we hold bills 61, 62, 63, and 64 for bulk roll call, please.
It's been moved and seconded to hold bills 61 through 64 for bulk roll call. Will the author please come forward? Is there a motion? Oh, yeah. Any objections? Seeing none.
All right, I'll keep this pretty short. I think this is a really great opportunity for the student organization to go and present some of their research at a national conference. So with that, if anybody has any questions or debate.
Have there been any changes made?
No changes.
Okay.
No, sorry, I forgot that.
First round to debate.
Yeah, I already said that.
Any debates in the negatives? Any debates in the positives?
Any debate at all?
Any debate at all? Seeing none, we'll move on to Bill 62. Will the author please be there? Like the Flash.
Yeah. No changes on this one.
Okay. First right to debate.
All right. This is another really great opportunity. I think it's really admirable that we have students giving up traditional spring break to go and do sort of a learning and service project in St. Louis.
Okay. Any debates in the negative? Any questions? Are there any questions on the debate? Seeing none, any debates in the negatives? Debates in the positives? Any debate at all? Seeing none, we'll move on to Bill 63. Would the author please come forward? Bill 63.
I think you're up here for 60.
Just kidding. All right. That's my fault. No changes on this one either.
First right to debate.
Okay, this is actually a really cool club that we have here on campus. As the name suggests, they develop games. But they're going to a conference and they can learn a lot of new techniques and also get feedback on what they have developed. So, really great opportunity.
Any questions on the debate? See none. Any debates in the negatives? Any debates in the positives? Any debates at all? See none. Bills, would the author for Bill 64 please come forward?
Yeah, no changes on this one.
Any changes? First right to debate.
Okay, so this student organization actually has their artwork displayed right outside the Wildcat Commons, and they're going to a conference to learn about some new like green printing techniques, stuff like that. Really good opportunity, just like the other three.
Okay. Any questions on the debate? Seeing none. Any debates in the negative? Debates in the positive? Any debate at all? Seeing none, we'll go ahead. We'll move on into a bulk roll call. vote roll call. Yeah.
All right. Adams.
Yes to all.
Akers.
Yes.
Thanks. Alberts. Anders. Arnaldi.
Yes to all.
Bergston.
Yes to all.
Bowler.
Yes to all.
Vickerood.
Yes to all by proxy.
Cafera. Dinez.
Yes to all.
DeMoranville.
Yes to all.
Dahl. Elliott.
Yes to all.
Flores.
Yes to all by proxy.
Fuller. Garcia.
Yes to all.
Garrity.
Yes to all.
Grandy. Harp. Haynes. Hendrickson.
Yes to all.
Hyen.
Yes to all.
Hughes.
Yes to all.
Jackson. Jewell.
Yes to all.
Kallenberger.
Yes to all.
Kelly.
Yes to all.
Kidd. Klein.
Yes to all.
Maples.
Yes to all.
Markle.
Yes to all.
Martin.
Yes to all.
McDermott.
Yes to all.
McIntyre. Mertens.
Yes to all.
Meyer.
Yes to all.
Nichols.
Yes to all.
Nedry.
Yes to all.
Nordstrom.
Yes to all.
Orth. Or Ogren, sorry. Ogren.
Yes to all.
Thanks. Orth. Penny.
Yes to all.
Papoon. Pitts.
Yes to all.
Pruitt.
Yes to all.
Rostenpour.
Yes to all.
Swanson. Tedrow.
Yes to all.
Thomas. Tuttle.
Yes to all.
Valdez.
Yes to all.
Works.
Yes to all.
Zwick.
Yes to all.
Perfect. 37 to 0 to 0.
Excellent. Still on final action, will the author for Bill 65 please come forward?
Huh? No, we're in the introduction.
Is this the introduction? Oh, okay. Sorry, there was a confusion right there. We're done with final action. We'll go ahead and proceed on to introductions of minor allocations. Is there a motion for Bill 65? Inton Brock.
I move to consider Bill 65.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 65. Would the author please come forward?
Minor allocation.
Minor.
Yeah, there's a motion to consider and summarize it.
The minor allocations, there's a motion to consider, and then they summarize, and then.
Okay. Inton Brock.
I move to consider the minor allocations.
It's been moved and seconded that the author be allowed to summarize.
No. So we've moved to consider all the allocations, Bill summarize and.
Oh, I'm going to summarize them. Oh. Okay, so for Bill 67, amendments to the Kansas State University Student Government Association Constitution concerning the executive cabinet position. Is it the one? Sorry. Travel allocations to the Asian American Student Union by the Travel Allocations Committee. They're asking for, they requested for a $600 request, and it is for the member of the Asian American Student Union, and they'll be traveling with 6 members to Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, on March 23rd to the 25th, and it's for the Midwestern American Asian Union Conference, and it's a great opportunity for the chapter to hear from professionals and engage in workshops and seminars that are dedicated in promoting the leadership in political advocatism. And the recommendation that they got was $600. So that was for Bill 65. And that's it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. Any questions? All right. Is there a motion for Bill 66? Senator Hughes? No, it's introduction to minor allocations.
One motion to consider them all.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've already moved to consider them, so then move on to the 66. So right here, and then you'll just be like, well, this is also travel allocation.
Okay.
How much?
Okay, so for Bill 66, again, it's travel allocations. This one will be for the allocation to the Engineering and Medicine and Biology Society. They're requesting for $300, and the recommendation that they got was $300. And what this pertains is they're sending 3 students to the Engineering, Medicine, Biological Society International Conference on Honolulu, Hawaii, on July 15th to the July 22nd. It's an opportunity for students to gain relevant knowledge about the biomedical engineering field by attending workshops. Keynote speakers will be there, and industrial professional for researchers. So that's for Bill 66. Bill 67. Okay, so yeah, that's all for Bill 66, 65, and 66. Is there a motion to roll call for Bill 66 and 65?
No, it's introduction. It's introduction.
Okay.
We'll do that next week.
Oh.
So you just move on to introduction.
All right. Next bill will be, is there a motion for Bill 67? Intern Jewel. Intern Coordinator Jewel. It's been moved to second to consider Bill 67. Would the author please come forward? Getting there, guys. Senator Hine. It's been moved to second that the author be allowed to summarize.
So this is changing the president's cabinet that's listed in the SGA Constitution, and it's exchanging Graduate Student Council President with Graduate Student Council Student Governing Association Liaison. This is a sister bill to one that was held in the Executive Committee for further discussion. So actually, I have the Graduate Student Council President here. President Ayers is going to hang around after Senate. And so if you'd like to talk more about what this solution will look like and the thought process behind it, we're going to be meeting, I think, over in JP's right after this. So just changing the president for the liaison.
Any questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred back to its committee. Is there a motion for Bill 68? Intern Coordinator Jewel. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 68. Would the author please come forward?
Okay, so this is an on-campus allocation for Gender Collective. By On-Campus Allocations Committee, whereas the On-Campus Allocations Committee received and reviewed the on-campus request of Gender Collective, whereas Gender Collective is planning a Transgender Day of Visibility, whereas the Transgender Day of Visibility event will give K-State students, faculty, and community members an open opportunity to learn about transgender experiences and become more familiar with the political environment. Whereas Gender Collective is bringing in Layla Ireland, a transgender Army veteran, to share her story and experiences, and how they also intersect with other aspects such as race, gender, military service, and class. And whereas the funds requested by this group and the funding recommended made are as follows. Project 1, Transgender Day of Visibility, April 12th, Union Ballroom. They requested $5,000 and we recommended $7,000. Be it enacted that Section 1, upon passage of this legislation by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, and upon signing of the award agreement by the members of Gender Collective required by the university, Gender Collective be awarded and distributed $7,000 from NIS ACON RSV for the event described.
Any questions for this one? Senator Kelly?
I guess I'm just kind of confused. Why is this not going through Diversity Programming Committee?
That's a great question that I do not know the answer to.
It just seems like a diversity kind of event.
Well, okay, so obviously you guys are aware about, we didn't have any more funding, so we were recommending that anyone who had an event to go to on-campus allocations. All right. Any other questions? Caucus, Senator Akers.
Yeah, could you explain why they requested $5,000 and why we're recommending $7,000?
So the speaker cost $10,000, and when they came in, they had told us that they had a scholarship for $3,000. So their initial request online says they requested $5,000. So we had asked that too, why they weren't just going ahead and asking for the rest of the funding. And they said that they just thought $5,000 was too much to ask for in the beginning. So $5,000 is what they recommended on paper, but they said that they would have been willing to ask for more if they thought that we thought it was acceptable. Does that make sense? No?
Any other questions? No. All right, seeing none, this bill will be referred back to its committee. Thank you. Is there a motion for Bill 69? Inton Bothwell? Bothwell.
I move Bill 69.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 69. Would the author please come forward?
Hello. This is the bill for the Students for Environmental Action by the On-Campus Allocations Committee. Whereas the On-Campus Allocations Committee has received and reviewed the on-campus request of the Students for Environmental Action. Whereas the Students for Environmental Action is planning an Earth Day talk with Julia Hall, an event for all Kansas State students to hear and learn from a modern-day environmental and social activist. Whereas Julia Hill would be speaking about her personal experiences, co-authored book One Makes a Difference, and her work through the Circle of Life Foundation and the Engage Network. Whereas the Earth Day talk will be a free event attracting around 100 K-State students to learn about how an individual can make a difference in this world and learn about the importance of treating our Earth with care. Whereas the Students for Environmental Action are registered with the Center for Student Involvement as an independent student organization. And whereas the funds requested by this group and the funding recommendation made are as follows. Project 1, Earth Day Talk with Julia Hill, April 22nd, Forum Hall, Kansas State Student Union. They requested $6,000 and our recommendations for $4,000. Be it enacted that Section 1, upon passage of this legislation by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, and upon signing of the award agreement by the members of the Students for Environmental Action required by the university, the Students for Environmental Action shall be awarded and distributed $4,000 from that bank account for the event described.
Any questions for the author? Cox Leader Rostenpole.
So the $4,000 that's given, is that enough to cover the entire speaker cost, or are we not funding the entire speaker?
I believe the entire speaker cost was actually $6,000. However, this group had raised how do I refer my rights to somebody else?
Oh, just say you refer your rights to whoever you're
I refer my speaking rights to Mertens.
So the speaker actually only cost $3,000, and they were wanting like the other $3,000 for like napkins and like balloons and stuff like that to attract people to come, and we didn't think that $3,000 was necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Director Kuchera?
So based on funding those requirements, could we fund that additional $1,000 beyond the speaker fee?
Brianna, correct me if I'm wrong, but this group already had raised a pretty substantial amount of money. And so that's why our recommendation was lower than the request, because they have a lot of money. And when we asked what they were going to do with that large amount of money, they gave very poor answers that were also very cheap, such as T-shirts for about 15 people, which doesn't cost $3,000.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred back to its committee. Thank you. Next up, we have Bill 70. Is there a motion for Bill 70? Intern Coordinator Marco. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 70. Would the author please come forward? Intern Coordinator Marco, sorry.
I move that the author be allowed to summarize.
It's been moved and seconded that the author be allowed to summarize.
Awesome. So Alpha Gamma Delta sorority is going to be going to San Antonio, Texas for their national convention, June 27th through 30th. They requested 1,500, but they're only sending 2 members, so it's capped at 200.
Any questions for the author? Any questions? Seeing none, this bill will be referred back to its committee. Thank you. And with that, we have officially exhausted our entire agenda for tonight. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and proceed on to second open period. Is there anyone for open period speaking? I'm gonna get Senator Tuttle there first.
Hello, everyone. The Republicans for the Kansas House of Representatives are looking for campaign interns for the summer. It's a paid position, so if anyone's interested or if you have any questions, contact me. I'm making the short list by this weekend, so if you can get that to me by then, that'd be great. Thanks.
Any questions? Seeing none, any other second open period speakers? Caucus Leader Pitts.
Hey guys, so here's your bi-weekly reminder of the legislative session, happens all the time. The legislative review session happening tomorrow in the Hemisphere Room with Dr. Sue Peterson at noon. So if you want to know what's going on in Topeka, Jack hasn't been here to tell us all the info, so Sue's got the lowdown. But it's happening at noon in the Hemisphere Room of the library on the 5th floor. So.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, any other second open period speaker? Jack.
All right. Get signed. Fill this fucking up. Nobody can leave. Megan Hine, you can't go to Aggieville.
Shots fired.
That's right. Actually, Megan, you can leave. You can go to Aggieville. You're excused for the rest of the meeting.
No one leaves until I say so. Hey, Jack, you didn't even sign up.
Right there.
That's not enough. Hey, you got that thing?
Nobody wants to go to Leeds.
You got that thing?
I know. Are you ready for a song?
All right. In the meantime, whilst everyone is signing up, would there be any other people want to make any second open period announcements?
Yeah.
Anyone? Elections Commissioner Sedekshklep.
Close enough. So, while you are all filling this wonderful Google Doc out for me, I thank you so much for signing up. Next Monday, we are going to be having a debate for the presidential candidates at 5 p.m. in Union Forum Hall. It's going to be an actual debate, not just candidates giving their platforms. It's going to be moderated by members of the Collegiate. So, see you all there.
Any questions for Commissioner Sedekshklep? Sedekshklep. Okay. Any other open period speakers? Inton King.
Hi everybody, so I'm just reminding everyone, I'm on the Royal Purple yearbook staff, and it's getting to be that time of the year where people start wanting to buy their yearbook. So if you have any questions about the yearbook, whether or not you want to buy one, just more information in general, come see me after Senate. Really appreciate it.
Any questions? Seeing none, any second open period speakers? I got one to make. So y'all know that, I've enjoyed my time at K-State and I'm probably going to be leaving. But I thought I should share some of my interesting things I've enjoyed being here. And one of the most interesting things I've loved is something called eggnog. That stuff is pretty good. So stay tuned to April 5th and find out what has Tender enjoyed his time in Kansas. So I can't wait. All right. We'll give this thing one more minute until Jack is a happy bunny.
I'm always a happy bunny.
Let's see. At least let's get somebody sign up for the leadership studies lobby Cadiza. If we get someone to sign up and then we can bounce. And then we'll move on to second roll. Director Kuchera.
Mr. Reminder, if you want to talk about the solutions for the Graduate Student Council liaison representative position, we'll be leaving from here. I think it's going to be over near JP's. We're probably just going to meet for 10 or so minutes.
It'll be in JP?
What? Yeah, like $2-3 million difference, yeah.
Any other second open period speakers? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to reference of legislations. So Bill 67 will be referred back to exec, and then Bill 65, 66, and 70 will be referred back to Tribal Allocations Committee, and then Bill 68 and 69 will be referred back to On-Campus Allocations Committee. With that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to roll call. So please listen for your, did you have something? Please listen for your names for roll call.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Okay. Adams.
Here.
Akers.
Here.
Alberts. Anders. Arnaldi.
Here.
Bergson.
Here.
Bowler.
Here.
Bickerud. Oh wait, you're gone. Dinez.
Here.
DeMoranville.
Here.
Elliott.
Here.
Flores. Bowler. Garcia.
Here.
Garrity.
Here.
Grandy. Hendrickson.
Here.
Hyen.
Here.
Hughes. Jackson. Jewell.
Here.
Kallenberger.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Kidd. Klein.
Here.
Maples.
Here.
Markle.
Here.
Martin. McDermott. McIntyre.
May I please ask Senator to please be professional whilst we end our meeting?
Wild Bill Harvey. Terrible. Y'all are terrible. Okay, McIntyre, are you here? He's not? Okay. Mertens? Meyer? Nichols? Nedry?
Here.
Nordstrom? Ogren? Orth? Penny? Papoon? Pitts?
Here.
Pruitt? Rostenpour? Swanson? Tedrow?
Here.
Thomas? Tuttle?
Here.
Valdez? Works?
Here.
Swick?
Here.
Harp? Haynes? Bothwell?
Here.
Cruz?
Here.
Dahl? Gammon?
Here.
Grover?
Here.
Hornung?
Here.
Horton?
Here.
Hodgkinson?
Here.
Houghton? Gabin?
Here.
Karamali?
Here.
Karanja? Kellerman?
Here.
King?
Here.
McAdam? McCandless? Meinhardt? Peckert?
Here.
Wait, Meinhardt, you're here?
She's not.
No? Okay. Putnam?
Here.
Roth? Rodriguez? Salvarino? Shao? Chumlin?
Here.
Wheeler? Whitmer?
Here.
Witzke? Zyke? All right, have a great weekend, y'all.
I'm the one who ends the meeting. Okay, we'll move on to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Intern King.
I move to adjourn this meeting until Thursday, March 8th, 2018, in Wildcat Chambers.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. And all those who oppose, out you go.
Why doesn't someone I am one of 5.
What? Are you driving? You do? It's funny because I see the same thing on my own. Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy that?
So his final action is revise.
Yeah, my cheese.
You would ask for a motion.
Right below. That's I have everything done.
They can,
None of us can understand.
you know, people say, put an allocation for on stage.
She said she was gonna be nice.
By a show of hands, so they don't. But these elections will be
But I think we have the other guys. My
VA bill.
like that we haven't had a good working relationship.
Yeah. What is it? That's why I was.
How do you feel about
top
that?
secret running through. He said someone that knows the website. Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. I can give you the. My only.
Well, I'm sure for everybody that's gonna go watch the next
Yeah.
rally.